listening to The Chris Maher Show, live on YouTube.
All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome back here to the program. It's been a little bit. A lot has happened. Really a lot has happened since the last time I was on here live. We last talked with Mike Knuble. A lot of different things that kind of went on. Just a little update on that. Mike will not be joining me tonight. He's on vacation, so there will not be a Kicking It With Knuble segment, but Mark Howell will still be joining me at 6:30. Yeah, it should be a good show. It'll be fun. It'll be interesting. A lot of different things to kind of talk about here, and there's been so many different things from the last time that I obviously talked. So let's kind of break it all down. So the draft was Wednesday night. We last talked on the 27th. There was no show on the 4th because of the holiday and other things that were kind of going around at that time. So the Flyers draft met by Mitch Cob. Really fun and really good night. The channel and from what I've been doing has kind of really blown up since then, so I really do appreciate that, and the numbers have been really good, and everybody's been really supportive, and I really appreciate that. My dad, what's up? The backyard's been Mr. Twister, what's up, brother? How are you? Got 9 people in here. Thanks everybody so much for tuning in. So the Flyers took Mitch Cob. They took Oliver Bonk in the first round. We'll kind of go through the draft a little bit. I'll talk about development camp, free agency signings, some of the RFAs that have recently been signed, potential Morgan Frost contract. We're kind of just going to be like talking shop for like a half hour because we got a lot of things to kind of, pick back up on, and then Mark Howell will be joining me at 6:30. So it should be a good one. I'm really excited for Mark Howell. We've been trying to get this one nailed down for a bit now. So, and again, for people who have questions or anything like that, put it in the chat below, and we'll be able to kind of get started. And also the phone line, 267-939-1216. You can ring the line, and we'll talk some Flyers hockey for a bit. So, Mitch Cob and Bonk. This is one thing that I've been trying to think about, talk about, and I've had some time to kind of think about it. It's been these past couple of weeks have been pretty good for the Flyers. Like, there's been a lot of different talk. I'm getting a call here. Dad, go ahead.
Yo, what's going on?
What's up?
Okay, question real quick. With the signing of Cates and York, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where do you think? I heard you mention Frost. What do you think his deal would be? What are you looking at there? As far as length and money wise, and two, that's a nice shirt you're wearing there.
Thank you. Yeah, this is one of the Mitch Cob shirts. Or at least one of the ones for now. This is the only one we have, but we are going to be making some more over at Maher Media. So, if people want to, go ahead.
You know who would have loved one of those?
You?
Yeah, me. Okay. Listen, I'm just going to hang up and listen to your answer. All right.
Okay. All right.
All right, man. Peace. Love you.
Yep. Talk to you. Bye, Dad. Every week he calls in. I love it. Again, we got 17 people in here. If anybody wants to hit the line, or hit me in the chat. Anything like that, again, talking Flyers hockey. So one of the things with the Frost deal, again, we'll kind of go all over the place a little bit because we got some time, and obviously, again, I haven't been live. The Frost deal for me, York signs 2 years at 1.6. Kate signs at 2 years at 2.625. My guess is Frost is probably 3 years at like 2.7. 2.8 around there. I would do 3x3, but I do think they're definitely close. I don't know what it's looking like right now, but I would like to get Frost at something more than 1 or 2 years. He's proven that he could play. He was on a 1-year show me deal. He definitely showed it. It'll be interesting. Obviously, there's still some other things that are going to happen with this team, like the D'Angelo trade. Mr. Twister asks here, are we still trading D'Angelo? I think so. I can't see the Flyers not moving Tony D. I think it's going to be kind of tough because, you know, you have the issues with the CBA, and there's a lot of things that have kind of come out with this, and a lot of things have been like leaked with the Flyers, right? I mean, I had the York signing for a couple days. I do still think that they are looking to move Tony D. I think it's just a matter of when at this point, because I just look at it, you know, you got, if you're looking at your defense, right? And I'm just going to look at cap friendly for the Flyers, right? So we have 1.2 in cap space. Projected cap hit is 82,000, or excuse me, 82,000, $82,227,095. That's our cap hit at the moment. 83.5 is going to be the cap ceiling for this year. If you're looking at our cap, right, we have 10 forwards on contract, and Frost is the only RFA that is left. There's a lot of UFA RFAs next year. The RFAs and UFAs for next season going into 24-25. At the moment, it's Tippett, Paling, Allison, Legzinski, D'Angelo, Walker, Mark Stahl, and Nick Seeler. And then in net, it's Hart and Sandstrom. So, you know, that's just on the roster. If you're looking at the prospects, Brink, Adam Brooks, Cooper Marity, Wills Molek, Adam Ginning, Mason Millman, Igor Zamula, Victor Mete, Ivan Fedotov. That's obviously not going to affect the Flyers. And then you have Sam Ersson. So there's a lot of guys that are kind of just in that type of mix. So I think my thing for D'Angelo is just the fact that if he doesn't get moved, which I think he is, you know, it seems like it's going to be Massimo Rizzo, who's going to come back to us. Solid prospect. It seems like I would have liked a pick, but that doesn't seem likely. So we'll see. It'll be interesting. This one's from David Kahns. Who do you think will end up being the better player, Frost or Cates? That's interesting. You know, I'm thinking probably Frost, because I think the offensive upside is there. You know, Cates he's definitely an offensive guy for sure, and I think he can still be, at least turn into more of an offensive type of player. But I just think right now, you know, Cates is so good defensively. Frost is much better on the offensive side of things. Not saying that both of them are bad in the other respected category, but you know, I just think for me right now, it's probably Frost. I think there's more of a ceiling there. I think there's more of an offensive talent that Frost can get to. So it'll be interesting. I think there's a lot of things that can kind of go with it, but it all depends on, you know, team and line mates and everything. But I think just overall, the way Frost kind of played towards the end of the year, there was a long stretch of periods of time where Cates wouldn't even get a shot on goal. So there's a lot of different things like that. I think Frost got better defensively too. So, but again, in Cates' defense, it's like he's so elite defensively that honestly, I don't think there's anyone really better than him, you know, defensively and forwards, as you know, as of Couturier. So let me see. There's a couple other things, a couple other questions here. I agree, Jeffrey. That was I thought Frost was really good last year. Lou, thank you for that. I appreciate it. I love all you guys too. It's awesome. Thanks. Thank you for tuning in again. I know you called in a couple weeks ago, but I do appreciate it. Let me see. This is from Harrison Otto. Do you think that TK or Lawton moves within the next year? What kind of value would an appropriate return for TK? Surely a first round pick and some assets. I think my thing with TK is if you were going to move him, I feel like they would have did it. They probably would have did it already. You know, for Konechny, who has 2 years left on his deal at $5.5 million, he's going to go up until he's 28. Lawton, I think it's easier to move him because Lawton has 3 years left at $3 million, and by the time he's in that last year at 25, 26, the cap's going to be really, really high, maybe up to like 95 million ish. So you're going to have a lot more wiggle room, and a guy like Lawton at $3 million, that's going to be a pretty solid contract. So maybe if they move Lawton, I'm not too sure, to be honest. But I think for right now, you kind of keep those guys kind of in that same boat. But I am getting another call here. Pick this one up. Hey, Lou, you're on the air.
Yo.
Lou, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you there.
Yep, all good.
Yeah, I want to see if I can get on.
Yeah, no, you're good. Go ahead.
Hey, brother. Listen, I'm just asking where you think Couturier is going to fit in for next year. I mean, they say he's healthy.
Mm-hmm.
They held him off coming back at the end of the year. But what role, if any, does he have with this team?
I mean, I think for me, if he's healthy, he's still your first line center. I think there's no question about his compete level, his talent, his defensive play. He's obviously good in the dot. He's easily right now our best centerman. And if you're looking, like, if I was thinking about this the other day, actually, and I wanted to bring this up, and I'm glad that you asked the question because, you know, since the trade of Giroux and you moved out Hayes and Couturier only playing 29 games in the last 2 years, the Flyers are horrible in the faceoff circle. I'll just say that to be blunt. Like, they're terrible. It's been worse in recent years. Specifically the 2019-20 season, they were one of the best teams in faceoffs, and even with Giroux and everybody else, they were one of the best teams in faceoffs for years. That's kind of going away. I think it's a big part of Coots' game, and I think it would help us a lot. But I think for me, he's definitely still first line center for sure.
Now, do you just showcase him to see if you can get something for him? Because again, clearly he's going to be above the age on where, or he's not going to be here when we want to get where we want to go. Are you just showcasing him, see if you can get something for him and giving him those minutes? Because again, down the line, is he really in the picture?
I think so. Because I look at it like this. It's like, you know, you still have to figure out A, what his relationship with Thorts is. We don't even know what that is yet. B, he's been a Flyer for a long time, and he's also a potential captain candidate.
Right, and I also know that he was, you know, I guess he signed here and played here when his rookie year. He was like 18 or 19 years old. I think he was really young.
Yeah.
So he's not really old in the big, scheme of things. And again, I agree with you about the captaincy. If he's playing, he's the legit guy. Right. I think he's the guy you got to go with. But is he, like I said, part of this future? And again, it's the variable is the surgeries and the injuries he's had. Can he come back and be the player he once was?
Right.
And log all those minutes, or do you basically give him, some short end of time, some power play time? But because isn't Cates really the same player, just younger?
The only difference with Cates is that he's not good in the faceoff circle. I think he was last year on average, I think off the top of my head, and I'm going to check this in a minute, he was around like 35% in the draws for last year. And if you go, he was 39.47% in faceoff circle. Like Couturier, he's average, like always been at least
mid
50.
upper 50s.
Yeah, at least.
He's legit.
Yeah,
but it's just I'm just scared that you're laying this kind of money. I think it's like, isn't it like $5 million against the cap for Couturier?
It's actually 7 years at 7.75.
Okay, so there you go. So almost $8 million against the cap, and a guy who you don't know who's going to be there, and how long, or do you, like I said, showcase him at the beginning of the year, trade him early? Yeah. To a team who's a contender, maybe somebody who's, one player short, and, he goes there and, plays well, and whatever happens. Because again, if we're going this youth movement, which obviously everybody sees we're doing, then, where do you go?
Right. I think the one thing with it is you have to look at, I think there's a couple different things, and it's not a bad question. And I think it's a reasonable thing to ask, right? Because he hasn't played, and, you have that concern of him not playing in these past couple of years. And it's like, is he still the same player? And I think, you could make the argument. Now, I personally think that, you at least give him that chance. I don't know if a contender would want him because his cap hit's really high and it's a long deal, and the injuries. The one thing is that I'm hoping that this doesn't turn into a Mark Stone thing, where essentially he rehabs the entire season, can only play a little bit in the regular season, and then he's only good for playoffs, and that's basically what he works for. Because Mark Stone right now is essentially only a playoff player for Vegas. He really can't play like that anymore because of the back. And that's the
lastly,
concern.
I got one more
Coots.
question for you, brother. I mean, really, and this is it. There's these reports, and you're kind of. I do see some of the stuff you broke. I saw that you broke the contract on Twitter. So again, impressive, by the way.
Thank you.
But lastly, the draft pick, Mitch Cob. I mean, there's a lot of reports coming out that some veterans and some coaches don't like him. And that he has an attitude.
Right.
What are your thoughts on this? And is it really just? Is it a real thing, a concern, or is it just maybe? A smoke screen and just, I mean, I don't know, disgruntled or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
But I mean, if the coaches and stuff really didn't like him, why would he have signed a contract for 3 years with them again? And that's the first thing I have. But what are you hearing with the overall personality of this guy? And like I said, I'll hang up and listen to you again. Like I said, great show. And listen, I can't wait to hear Markel. That's a big get for you, brother. And listen, like I said to you on the message board, listen, just make sure we love you too, and tell your dad we love him also.
Awesome. All right, thank you, Lou. I appreciate it. All right, I'll see you. Bye. So yeah, I mean, it's funny. I was going to bring up the Mitch Cob thing. I have it on here in my notes. This was kind of brought up on Spittin' Chicklets a little bit. I'm curious what everybody thinks too. I'll kind of ask the audience, I guess, the same thing too. Is what were you thinking about it? Because my thing is there's no actual information out there that can prove any of this. This is all just Spittin' Chicklets, just sitting there kind of bullshitting, just talking. And it's like, I get it if it was a dig at his game or something like that, but like attacking a kid's character. First of all, what 18-year-old 17, 18-year-old kid isn't like that, right? I mean, this kid just went 7th overall. He easily could have went 1. Like, I really don't have a problem with any of that if he's going to be putting up 40-something goals in the NHL, 50 goals in the NHL every year. I really think it to me, I don't understand it. And the other thing to kind of keep in mind with the Chicklets thing too is like, and I'm not trying to dog on them because I like some of the guys that are there. I had RA on the show. I like Biz. I think he's great. Ryan Whitney, it's one of the things with him. It's like, does he actually say this stuff because it's true, or is it the fact that he doesn't like the Flyers? Because he's been on record saying that he's, obviously he's a Penguin. He said that before. He's been on record about the Hayes trade, about Torts, about Keith Yandel, all of this other stuff. So it's like, does he really actually just say this, or is it, does he just say this because he doesn't like the Flyers, or is this like something that's like actually true? Because honestly, I really don't look into any of it. I'm stoked to get Mitch Cob. Like, it doesn't, to me, I don't look at it as like, oh my God, like this kid's like an asshole in this whole thing. Like, I don't look at it that way. That's what's been talked about, right? Is him and, the behavior and everything. I don't look at it that way. So I'm curious what everybody else thinks. There was a question in here, NJ Dave. I wanted to get to that. Here it is. Should we be worried about Cutter? No, I don't think so. I don't look at the Cutter thing as like he's, not. I don't look at the Cutter thing as like he doesn't want to. Like, I just don't understand what would cause that type of reaction from Cutter. Like, what happened in the year? The only thing that changed was management, and it got better. Like, I don't really understand like where that even would come from. So I don't think so. I'm not too sure on the whole Cutter thing. I don't really buy into it. It doesn't really concern me. I just think it's something that's just kind of stirred up. But I don't think so. I really don't. I don't know. It's interesting. I think there's a lot of different things here. Like, again, my dad mentioned the Frost contract, and that's one I'm thinking probably, again, because he's the one last RFA that we have left. Got 31 people in here. Thanks everybody so much for all the support. Yeah, exactly. I agree, man. He ended up saying that he went up to Torts and kind of shook his hand type of thing, and Torts loved it. So it's to me, I think it's great. He seems like a guy that genuinely wants to play here, wants to be a Flyer. And again, you got 2 more first round picks next year. You got Gauthier. You got Mitch Cob, you got Bonk, wherever the other two guys you get next year. It's looking to really, this rebuild might take a bit. It's probably going to take a bit. But man, I think this team is going to really turn this around. And the Flyers have really done everything that's helped it. I mean, you add Stahl at 1 year at 1.1. This is kind of just a rethink, just a recap of that. Hathaway at 2 years, 2.375. Paling at one by 1.4. It's like all this different stuff. You're adding so many different things. And Paling, again, they're all low risk, high reward, deals. Hathaway especially could come in and, he's like Delorier, but he can score. He's got a little more skill. I'm curious about Cates in front of the net on the power play. That's one thing they tried a little bit. He did do it. Because you do that. That's the one thing with next year is the power play, because it's got to be better. We'll see though. It'll be interesting. Jonathan Nesbitt says Mitch Cob is 18, so even if the stuff is true, who cares? He's going to grow and mature. We'll be a different exactly. And like part of it too is like it's Brier who drafted him. They had the meeting at Voorhees. Says, oh, he just couldn't stop blushing over wanting to be a Flyer. Like, and now it's like turning this whole thing that he's like, he's an a-hole and all this other stuff. It's like I can't listen to it. A lot of the stuff that I literally listen to for Chicklets is just funny stuff in the interviews, depending on the guest. Like I don't really listen. Like it does nothing for me. It really doesn't. Mr. Twister says, we as a fan base have PTSD from years of bad moves and bad luck. So when anything happens, we just think, well, yeah. And here we go again. That's kind of where I'm at too. Sometimes with some things, especially when Elliot Desnoyers got hurt in dev camp, I was like, dude, here we go. Like, this is just going to be another injury for a guy who could make the team out of camp. Thankfully, nothing too serious was out of it. And dev camp was good too. I've been kind of going all over the place here. Dev camp was really good. We did really well on our Twitter at Maher Media. Go check that out. We're doing a couple more giveaways as well. And we just did the giveaway today for the 2 signed posters by essentially everybody that was there. There were some guys that weren't in the line for the autographs because of injuries and stuff. The guys who didn't play in the scrimmage. Some guys were, some guys weren't. It wasn't the whole 39 players. It was a good chunk though. It was pretty much everybody. I'll just say that. But we did that. We have a couple other giveaways that we're going to be announcing soon. I did announce one of them in the newsletter, the Sync Up Sunday newsletter from Maher Media. If you guys want to check that out, that's on the about page of my YouTube. If you want to sign up for that, we do a newsletter every Sunday at 7 a.m. It goes out, and it's just kind of all different, Flyers things that we kind of put into it. It's been a lot of fun. So check that out as well if you're interested. But yeah, no, I mean, I think for now, the one thing I did want to mention here, and I'll be talking about this throughout most of the summer, the lines, because one of the things that I've been really trying to figure out, like what this type of team could kind of be, and really what the lines can look like, and all of this other stuff. Let me just kind of get these up, and I'm going to put these lines up. These are from my business partner. These are from Paul. Paul runs Maher Media with me. He put this out today. These are some of the lines that we were maybe thinking of. Paul didn't, put it out with me, but this is one of the things that we were trying to kind of incorporate here. Let me see. Here we go. Let me share my screen. Here we go. So this is essentially the lines that we were kind of looking at least a little bit here. So sorry about that. There we go. Okay. So it's kind of blocking off the bottom. I do apologize about that. Let me kind of edit that 1 second. That's a little weird. All right, let me just switch this up. Here we go. So these are some of the lines that I was kind of looking at. Again, I do got Mark Howe in a couple minutes, and this is Paul here at the bottom, Philly season. So these were the lines that Paul had brought up, and this is kind of what I want to look at here. So Farabee, Couturier, Tippett, Konecny, Frost, Forrester, Lawton, Cates, Atkinson, Delorier, Paling, Hathaway, Sanheim, Risto, York, Walker, Stahl, and Sealer, and that's pretty much it. So essentially that's kind of the whole thing here. These are some of the lines. It'll be interesting just to kind of figure out here what the lines are going to be, because there's a lot of different things to kind of look at, but I don't think this is a bad lineup. I mean, if healthy, right? Because you got to add Coots and you got to add Atkinson. If not, Hathaway's probably up a line. You have Frost is probably your first line center. Cates probably. It gets a lot worse if you don't have those guys. But I don't think it's a lineup that's not going to score like that. Yeah, that's a good point. Zamula does need waivers if he has to go down, so he'll probably have to make the team out of camp. No, I don't know about Sandstrom. I mean, I don't think they're going to go with the 3 goalies. I don't know. It'll really be interesting to kind of see, but I just wanted to kind of mention these a little bit as well, because there's a lot of different things there on the lines and potential opening night roster. And since the season tickets went on sale, or not season tickets, single game tickets went on sale, I did get my ticket for the home opener. Me and Paul are going. But it'll be fun. It'll be a lot of fun. I can't wait for the home opener. And then again, so the first couple games of the season will be a little weird because I got watch party for games 1 and 2, Columbus and Ottawa. And then we're going to go, I'll be at the home opener on that Tuesday night. So I probably won't do a show unless I might do it earlier in the day, kind of like a preview of the home opener. And then maybe around like noon or something. It might be like a special type of show, kind of do it that way. It'll be fun, but that's obviously a long time, down the road. Yeah, for sure. Philly Ghosts. I mean, they had a couple tough years though. I mean, they were, I think, like 9th worst in the league, 4th worst at one point. I can't remember where they had picked, but they were like picking 6th and 7th and everywhere else. It's kind of been a couple tough years for New Jersey before, obviously, this past year, and they're going to be pretty good in a couple years here. So it'll be interesting. But again, we got Mark Howe here in a couple minutes. Played over 1,500 games between the WHA and the NHL. Flyer for a decade. A lot of good stories and insights. So excited to hear from Mr. Howard. Should be fun. But again, any other questions, stuff like that? Let me see here. I'm gonna miss a couple. Trying to see. This is a good one. Do you have an opinion on where Cutter will be playing after his 23-24 season in BC? My guess is he's a Phantom, but I don't think it wouldn't upset me if he stayed another year in college. Like it wouldn't bother me at all. I'd be honestly perfectly fine with that. So yeah, I'm okay with that. But my guess is he's probably a Phantom. That's my guess for right now. I'm getting one call here. You know what? I might have to actually put this one on hold because I'm supposed to have Mark Howe in a minute here. Supposed to call me exactly at 6:30. So if whoever just rang in, hit me back after and I will answer. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there. And I do apologize because I know I just said it, but I don't want to, if he rings in, then I don't want to be rude and cut you off. So who do you think is going to surprise us this year? It's from Lou. Let me see. Probably Frost. It's my guess. I don't know. It's interesting. I think it all depends on how camp goes and stuff. We will see. It'll be interesting. I'm not too sure right now, to be honest. Here we go. This is Mark Howe ringing in. All right, here it is. Hi, Mr. Howe.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Thank you for doing this. I appreciate it.
Yep, sure.
So just a couple of things. You know, for you, you know, obviously your dad and family were so into hockey. How did you kind of, you know, get into hockey from a young age, and what were you know, some of the things you know, for you that kind of really kind of made you that want to pursue a professional hockey career?
Well, I don't know. You know, I think we all played hockey for a living. I think we all loved it. But yeah, we were kind of into everything else. But hockey was an absolute huge part of our lives growing up. So I know my dad. You know, I was always told they put me on skates when I was 2 years old, and they used to put me on a chair, and you'd put. When I was 4 years old, playing organized hockey. We played. They had no indoor rinks at the time, so we played outdoors for a couple of years, and then yeah, I always. Yeah, I think I was a pretty good athlete at a lot of things, but my brother Marty actually was a better athlete than I was. But I think I had more of a passion for playing hockey, and
Yeah.
so I mean, from a very young age, it was always something I wanted to do. You know, back in the day, I was a pretty good golfer. Like, you know, I wrestled, ran track, played baseball, football, did, you know, so many things in junior high and high school. But I always fell back to, like, you know, it was easily my first choice was to play hockey.
Okay. Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, especially when you have, you know, it's crazy because I think a lot of the talk nowadays is, you know, a lot of kids getting into other sports that kind of helps them get into the game. So it's interesting, you know, playing so many different sports and kind of how that helped you as well. Just kind of going off that, you know, you played in the WHA as well for a long time, 426 career games. What was that kind of transition period like from, you know, going from the WHA to the NHL?
Well, that transition was easy. I think it was more difficult going from amateur hockey. So my last year of amateur, I played up with the Toronto Marlboros. My brother was on the team the year before, and then he played that year, and we won the Memorial Cup, and then the WHA came along, and at the time you had to be 20 years of age to get into the NHL, and because of the draft rules and stuff. But the WHA took guys earlier, so we went down to Houston. Dad came out of retirement, and we played. And but yeah, when you're 18 years old and you're playing against a lot of men that are you know, 30 years of age, that's a big transition. You know, but I think you know, having my dad on my line, and also having a great coach and Bill Deneen, and you know, and a good group of really good group of guys down in Houston, that made the transition a little bit easier. Actually, I think Marty adapted to the league a little quicker than I did. I think I got rolling maybe by the end of November, December sometime, and then I started to feel, you know, like I belonged. And so I mean, the transition when the leagues merged in '79 was actually it was pretty easy. The only thing, it was just a little bit of an unknown because you're going, you know, everybody said the WHA was a, you know, a horrible league and guys couldn't play, and well, and you know, and Hartford was you know, of the teams that got in the league, Hartford was the worst team that got in, and
Right.
you know, we made the playoffs that year, and probably would have made it the next year, but we had some really bad injuries at wrong times, and we definitely weren't, you know, one of the elite teams in the league. But we weren't in the WHA either, and so the only thing that was different for me, because I played forward pretty much for 6 years, and a couple of games of defense, not many, but the year the leagues merged was I got moved to defense. So that was the first year that I really played defense. So it was more of a transition from playing left wing to learning how to be a defenseman. Yeah.
Right. So just kind of going off that then, like just talk about that a little more. Like how was that transition for you from going from 40 goals at wing and then going to right into defense? Like how much did you have to change in your game?
Well, I had to learn how to play the position.
Right.
One is it's even as a forward, I was always taught that you play both ends of the rink. You learn how to get the puck out. You get your coverage in your end of the rink, and I was always a responsible two-way player, and and then on defense, it's just even more so. I mean, your primary job is keeping the puck out of your net,
right?
And the more you can, any offense that you can bring. If you're a solid defenseman, it's just an absolute bonus. So, but the hard part back 79 was, I think we didn't have a lot of games televised. We really didn't have anybody. There was no efficient way of trying to learn the position other than you go out, you make mistakes, and then you in your mind, you kind of go over what you think you did wrong, and then you work on it. And it wasn't until then I went through real bad injury. I think the second year in the league, and and I think that's what kind of forced things so that the team wasn't happy with me. I wasn't happy with the situation I was in, and and I got traded to the Flyers, and I've always credited Eddie Van Imp with helping me out tremendously when I came to the Flyers. So he. Eddie used to say, like, what am I going to teach you? And I know because I was runner-up for the Norris my first year. And and I said, nobody's ever taught me a thing about playing the position. And so Eddie taught me, how he played. And my skill set was better than Eddie's. And obviously he was bigger and stronger and tougher, but he had to play the game within his limitations. And he taught me how he mentally thought the game, how he positioned himself, how he looked at things, and I paid really close attention to that. And then and I had some good partners here that where you learn to do it in practice every day. And once you can correct making the mistakes you make, then the defensive part of the game gets much easier, and I think you can bring more offense to the game. So that's kind of the transition of the next couple of years. That I think that's where I really started to learn how to play the position.
Wow, that's incredible. Just kind of going off that, you mentioned coming to Philly. It was that in the big deal in '83. Your first game as a Flyer. I've heard this story before. I'm curious if you could kind of just explain it a little bit. The first pass that you received from Paul Holmgren. What was that like?
Well, that was the first home game, and it was it was near I think it was about somewhere around the 15-minute mark. There was a little bit of time left in the period, not a lot. And, I passed the puck to the right wing, and I drove up the middle of the rink, and I had like a little semi break going to the net, so Paul Holmgren wanted to pass it back. And back in the day, the ice in the Spectrum wasn't always the best, and Homer's pass ended up hitting me just in the right cheekbone. So it stunned me. I went down and ran into the boards. I got up, and so I was trying to finish the period, but it was a bad enough cut. They said, "No, go in and get it stitched now." So to this day, I always remind Homer that that pass. Actually, when I was getting stitched up in between periods, he came in and he said, I got to learn how to take a pass. So I guess it was my fault.
That's funny. How many stitches did you get?
Oh, I don't know. I
don't remember.
Nah, like I don't know. On that play, who knows? But I think the worst. The worst thing that ever happened to me is I got skewered on the net in Hartford. I mean, that was a pretty traumatic thing. I mean, I was extremely lucky to still be walking. Really lucky I didn't have to wear a colostomy bag the rest of my life. I mean, I missed doing that by maybe an eighth of an inch. Like I said, I missed being paralyzed by maybe 3/4 of an inch. So there's a lot of things that could have happened and that didn't. But I mean, it set me back a long time. So I mean, I used to play it on that night because I weighed myself every day, and I weighed 192 pounds. And I think I tried to come back and play 6 weeks later, and I weighed 170.
Oh, wow.
So and I was no good for at least a year. It took me a year to recover from it, and
right.
just to get to where I started. But I never ever played over 186 pounds again, so I never fully recovered from that. And
Yeah.
so it was. But I think other than that, I think one time we were playing on the island, and I took Mike Bossy out behind the net, and we both just fell. He fell forward. I fell like on his back, and his skate caught my upper lip, and it cut through the end of my nose, and then it got through and cut my gum a little bit, and that one was. I don't know, it was like 25, 30 stitches, but I mean, obviously it could have been a heck of a lot worse. But then the worst thing about it was, and this was an exhibition game. It was a couple of days later. We had a game up in Quebec, and I went to just finish a check on, or Boston it was, and I went to finish a check on Kenny Linsman. And Kenny, because I know he played on the edge, and he must have thought somebody was coming to run him from behind, and I wasn't ready for it. And he two-handed me and gave me a cross check in the face, and what it did just split that cut wide open, and that's the one that then it really hurt. So yeah, that was like I said, both times. I had a couple pretty bad injury. Well, like I said, the one at Hartford was could have been like I said, devastating for my life, let alone anything else. But as unfortunate I was to have those things happen, it ended up being I was extremely fortunate.
Wow. Yeah, no, for sure. Just kind of going off that, I'm since I'm live, there's people in here listening and stuff, and one question that actually just came in, which I'm actually curious what your answer is someone had asked to ask you how you thought about playing in the Coop rolls, but with the Flyers with the pants.
I didn't mind them. Like if anybody knew me back in the day, and especially the trainers are always the guys that have to deal with the players. Some are fussy and finicky, and there's only two things that I really cared about, and that was my skates and my sticks.
Okay.
So so the Coop rolls, they didn't bother me at all, and I wore my equipment extremely loose. Underneath, people wear underwear, shirts, this and that. Most of the time, I just wore a jock underneath my equipment. I like to be as light as possible. I didn't like to overheat, and so it was. But yeah, and I was pretty efficient with my skates too. I think I used to use at most one pair of skates a year. Every once in a while, I'd make them last about a year and a half. And as far as sharpening skates, I generally Kurt Munt was our equipment guy, and I used to just tell Kurt that when they hang my skates up, if he thought I needed them sharpened, go ahead and sharpen them. If not, just leave them alone. So a lot of times I would go every bit of 3 weeks without having my skates sharpened. The only thing that was different up in when we go play in the old rink in Winnipeg, and the ice was so good and it was so hard that if you didn't have a real good edge on your skate, I would fall a little bit more. So every time we went to Winnipeg, I'd have them just run over my blades, usually 2 or 3, just little quick swipes, and then they had the stone to cut the edge off. But I would have them just take the stone and run it down. So I mean, I definitely didn't like my skates overly sharp.
No, for sure. And it's crazy because I think now there's such a change in equipment and how much guys use different equipment, and some of the things that come out is how many pairs of skates that guys will use in a year or sticks and stuff like that. I'm curious for your stick, you mentioned that and you're pretty particular about it. Was there any certain curve that you like to use? Was it always black tape? Was it always something specific about it?
Yeah, well, most of my curve, I grew up in an area where the sticks were pretty well straight and curves were just coming in, and so I mean, a lot of the old Russian sticks, they were straight, and then you had a big toe curve, and that's kind of what I liked. And
Okay.
and the funny thing about it was, I always fixed my sticks. So I always had 3 or 4 ready every day, and when I was here, at the time I was using aluminum sticks because the wood sticks, you're breaking 3 or 4 a day in practice, and you get a lot of times with defense, you only get one good shot, and the stick would break. So actually, it was Bobby Clark gave me a Kristen aluminum shaft. I think maybe 4 or 5 games into the year, and I used all I had was one shaft, and I used that whole shaft for the entire season.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but every once in a while I'd get in a funk, and I wasn't scoring or just shooting the puck right. So I
Switch
used
it
to
up.
have our medical guy Sudsy. So Dave Settlemeyer, I'd say, Sudsy, fix my sticks. And actually, if I was a smart hockey player, I would have had him do them every night because, ironically, it just seemed like if I was in a bit of a slump, Sudsy did my six, I'd end up scoring that night. So it was actually, it was kind of funny.
That's awesome. So just kind of going off that, obviously you mentioned the trade coming to Philadelphia. Did you have like any thoughts from coming in and just kind of going off that in your 10 years here? Are there any favorite moments that kind of stick out to you?
Well, I know when I left Hartford, and I had a no trade contract. Like I said, they wanted to get rid of me, and that's the only time I'd been on a team where
They wanted to
where
ship
we
you
had
out.
lost. We had lost, and boy, I hated losing. So, and it was
Yeah.
time to go, and I had 4 teams on my list. It was the Islanders, the Rangers, the Bruins, and the Flyers. I thought they were the four best teams in the league, and it worked out fortunate for me. I came to the Flyers. I mean, it was a great fit because how the team was run, what it was all about team. It was never about individuals, and it
Right.
was about playing a team game. And that was my mentality. That's how I was brought up in the Howe household. It's never about you; it's about everybody else. Your thing was to do your part. So, but I think, yeah. So I was here from '82 to '92, and clearly, I think for a lot of guys that played anywhere near that time, that went to the Stanley Cup Finals in '87 when J.J. Daniels scored in Game 6 overtime, or near the end of the game in third period, and I thought the Spectrum roof was going to cave in, and I think for anybody that kind of played during that time frame of 4 or 5 years, most everybody, that's their favorite moment.
Right. No, for sure. I mean, it's one of the goals that I think so many people remember, and from one of the runs as well. And just kind of going off that, you mentioned when you were picking, or at least for teams to potentially get traded to, you mentioned the Flyers and kind of how everything was all about the team. For you, does it seem like now that that might be something that the Flyers kind of have to get back since they're going into a rebuild, and it's more of a transitional period right now for the team?
Well, I don't know. I think it's always been based about team. I think what's going on here in Philly is kind of like, I worked for the Red Wings for a lot of years. What's going on here is what happened with the Red Wings maybe 7, 8, 9 years ago. Is your older core players were getting old. Guys like Couturier's breaking down, and it's an Ellis, and he's only able to play 4 or 5 games. I mean, not like that's a huge hole.
Right. Yeah.
And in Detroit, so we had Zetterberg. We had a few guys that they got hurt, but we're hoping they get healthy. They come back next year. Then you find out at training camp they're not ready, so you're already behind 2 or 3 guys.
Right.
And you're trying to play catch up, and you just can't do it. The league's too hard. The parity is. There used to be some easy games. There are no easy games. I think in Detroit, we pulled the plug, I think, 1 year too late. You end up making a trade or two, or not making a trade or two, and you, even if you get in the playoffs, you're not going to win.
Right.
And so getting in the playoffs is not the goal. I mean, winning is the goal. And and I think last year, right from the get-go, it was just going to be almost impossible. And if you look at the teams that have done extremely well over the last 20 to 30 years, teams, they've all been built for the draft. And
Right.
you look at the teams that they trade away Provorov, you get a bunch of assets. I mean, the teams, the Chicago won 3 cups in 6 years, I think it was, and
Yep.
they had 33 or 34 draft picks.
Yeah.
The Detroit Red Wings have worked on doing that, and the hard part with them is the Red Wings have just been killed in lottery. So, I mean, the worst you could do in a 4-year period was go back 12 spots. Well, they went back 10.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's just a huge negative for a team, and it prolongs the rebuild.
Right, for sure.
So the Flyers need to accumulate picks. I think they've started to do that.
Definitely.
And
Yeah.
at the same time, you need your Bobby Clark kind of guy. You need your Dave Poulins. You need guys that are, we call them bus drivers. They are the guys that they're the leaders on the ice, off the ice, and they push the bar. And so the one thing I noticed over the last number of years here in Philly is a lot of guys that come in have really good year or two, and then their game just kind of flattens out. Well, it shouldn't flatten out. And my belief is the reason they flatten out is because there's nobody pushing that bar. And if
Right.
that player's not doing it himself, you look at the New York Islanders, go back years ago, who struggled, and then they drafted a John Tavares, who is not a great player, but he's a really darn good player. Well, he went in and he set the tone as a 18, 19-year-old kid, and he came in with a purpose, and he raised the bar of everybody in that locker room. And then the Islanders became a pretty good team, and a tough opponent again a couple years after that.
Mhm.
So that's kind of what the Flyers need, somebody like that. And with every team, you need a decent goalie, guy that can stop the puck, guy that's consistent. You need a couple of big studs on the back end, and you need a couple guys up the middle of the rink, and you need a guy that can score. And if you don't have at least those 6 pieces, you're just going to have a really hard time winning.
Right.
And so that's what the Flyers need to do. And I know the fans don't want to hear it, but sometimes it's a long process. But
Yeah.
if you can win a lottery or two, and the biggest thing, I know the fan base here, you just want your team to be competitive.
Right.
And,
Exactly.
and as long as you're competitive and you're playing together as a team,
Mhm.
I think they got the coach in place for that.
Right.
You got to be patient, but then, if they can draft, the key is to drafting really well. If they can draft really well, and hopefully hit a home run here or there with say a second or third round or fourth round pick, then that speeds the process a bit. But I think that I'm definitely think they're going in the right direction.
Mhm.
And so I'm like everybody else. I'm rooting and hope they do well in the near future.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, and I feel like, everything, it seems like it's been going in the right way, and you've had a couple pretty good picks, it seems like, in this recent year, and obviously getting Matt by Mitch Cob, and he seems like he could kind of be that guy like you were talking about, like that bus driver, if you can get him here and he can play, and hopefully it all goes well. I just have one last question for you, and then I'll let you go.
Sure.
The Mr. and Mrs. Hockey Scholarship, can you talk about that a little bit and just kind of what that means to you?
Yeah. Well, it's basically the Howe Foundation, which was created by my mother and father back in the '90s, and it was my mom. Over the years, I look back, all the charitable thing. My dad was head of March of Dimes in Michigan for years, and they've done charity work their whole lives. And but then they created the Howe Foundation, and it's mostly, like I said, to help out the youth. Primarily here in North America, and I think we started. We've been 4 years now donating to Snyder Hockey,
Mhm.
and for me, it's great. I like we figure we're maximizing our dollars. So I mean, last year we were fortunate enough we were able to donate $50,000. When the Snyder Foundation matches 2-1, so it ends up being $150,000 that go to somebody, group of people or whatever in the Delaware Valley area, and it's not just for hockey; it's for education. So
Right.
that's part of what my mom was all about, and like I said, my mom made sure my dad got out there and he had the notoriety so he could attract the people that brought in the money, but. And then, especially after Dad passed, and we have 4 kids in the family, and we all decided that, hey, what we're going to do with so much of what we raise and stuff through the Howe Foundation is it's not something we're going to take. We're going to continue the legacy of what our parents did, and by giving back. And there was always a story. It's called the first skate. And when my dad was a kid, and they had 9 kids in the family growing up on a farm during the Depression up in Saskatchewan, and somebody came by my grandmother's house, and they had no money, and so she gave her like $2 at the time, which was a ton of money.
Yeah.
And in return, they gave my grandmother a pair of skates. Was in one of the bags that they gave her, and those were the first pair of skates that Gordie Howe ever used. Actually, he had one. His sister had one. Dad finally took it from Sister Helen.
Oh wow.
But it was so we're kind of hoping that there's so many different charities, but and I've met some of the people that have gone through Snyder Hockey and different things, and and they see them all the way through college if they want to go. And I just think it's a fantastic thing, and I had a lot of respect for Ed Snyder, so that has a lot to do with it too. But and also we're trying to do some things in other areas. We're trying to put something together up in Dad's hometown of Saskatoon, and we're really close to doing that. So
that's awesome.
But it's all about continuing the legacy of what my parents did for years, and and by giving back. So I think the world's a better place if everybody can give back a little bit.
For sure. No, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it.
All right.
And I mean, that's all I have for you. Thank you again. Seriously, Mr. Howe, this was awesome. I really appreciate you taking the time, and it was good that we were able to kind of, get it planned, and it was awesome. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right, Christopher. All right. Thanks.
All right. I'll talk to you too. Have a good one.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
There he is, Mark Howe. That was awesome. Really, really fun. Always good. That was the first time I ever talked to Mr. Howe, so that was really cool. Hope everybody enjoyed that. That was a lot of fun. Thanks again to everyone else. That's all I got for tonight. Thank you to Mark Howe, Bill Meltzer, who helped me out with getting some of the notes and everything down for that. That was a lot of fun. And thank you to Bill. If you're watching, I don't know. But thanks everybody again for all the support. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe button, all that stuff. I will not be doing a show next week. I'll be on vacation. I cannot wait to sit my tubby self on the beach and not do anything. So it'll be fun. And thanks everybody again for all the support. And I'll talk to you guys all again soon. See you guys. Bye.